Just a heads up that phase 1 is not going to be fully explained. Instead, we will be skipping it with raw damage and the help of an origin bind and a regular bind. If you don't have those, may God help your soul. Starting with the most important thing, the curses. Blackmage's attacks in all 4 phases, for the most part, all apply either the black debuff or the white debuff. Getting hit by the opposite one that you are currently afflicted with is an instant life lost. Not an actual death, but as far as the fight is concerned, you did just lose a life, and you have 12 to start with, and it's tracked on this little UI thing right here. Aside from that aspect of it, the black and white debuffs actually bring both benefits and negatives to you depending on which one you have. These are the properties of each debuff. Typically you prefer to have black as it helps you do more damage where white hinders your damage. But it is worth noting that the healing block from the black debuff cannot be bypassed by healing familiars, but can be bypassed by decent holy fountain. On to how we actually do phase 1 the proper way, quote unquote. The goal is to jump up, hold a blink or some other levitating ability, and cause both the statues to group up. Here on screen is an example of when things go wrong, and if you don't have big range like a Dawn Warrior, that's not going to work out for you and you just want to back out and restart. The proper way to do this is to be a little to the left or a little to the right and hold your blink up in the air, causing one statue to do a plunging attack right on top of the other one, and then just as it's falling you can bind them both together and then you can kill them easily. In the case that you don't have enough damage to pull this off, I'm sorry, I cannot help you. I've only done Blackmage solo, and phase 1 is incredibly unfriendly to solo players. On to phase 2, Blackmage is going to be a permanent fixture in the center of this arena. And from here on out for phase 2, 3, and 4, Blackmage will be immune to all non-origin binds. So let's talk about attacks. Some of these attacks were present in phase 1. For starters, the black chain attack, which applies the black debuff. This is the big reason why we play specifically for the black debuff in phase 2. This attack tracks the player, it is very relentless, and it's very common. It is one of the hardest attacks to dodge, but it is not immediately threatening, especially if you're standing on top of a holy fountain ready to press up at any moment to get a nice heal, which I highly recommend. Next quote-unquote attack is blindness. There's no counterplay here. Occasionally, he's just going to inflict you with blindness and block out your vision because he's a dick. Next are the pillars of light that explode upward. They are indicated by this effect on the floor right here. They apply the white debuff, and they appear sequentially across the map in a short delay, meaning that it's very easy to dodge them either by going into the far left or right corners, which is completely safe from them, the spots where one never spawns in the first place, which is random, or by moving into the spot of one that just exploded before the one you're currently standing on does. If you're going to choose to dodge it by going into the left or right corners, be aware that the left corner can be quite dangerous due to Blackmage's meteor attacks, one of which was present in phase 1. These meteors always fall in a straight down line and they cascade across the map. It's a relatively simple attack, but it can be dangerous because they also apply white debuff. The next type of meteors also apply white debuff, and these ones always fall from the top right to the map to the bottom left of the map in a diagonal line, except when these ones hit the floor, they actually turn into a rolling ball that goes either left or right at random. Then the last of the regular attacks is actually just these bouncing balls that Blackmage summons that are limited to an invisible box that cannot go to the outer edges of the map, and they will apply white debuff as well. These are incredibly easy to dodge, but the problem is they apply the white debuff, and since you will very commonly have black debuff, it is best to treat all of these white debuff attacks like they will one-shot you, because more often than not, they effectively will. However, given that there are so many little attacks that by themselves aren't dangerous, but are very common and can start to overlap, you can easily be put in dangerous situations where you might have to use an extreme answer like an iframe or Hero's Will to save yourself. And lastly, for phase 2 is the full map attack, which is something that he will have in every phase from here on out. After a successful full map attack, Blackmage receives a shield which does nothing more than just slow the fight down. In phase 2, he has 3 different full map attacks which are all countered by standing in a specific spot on the map, either the far left corner, the far right corner, or the dead center. Which one he casts is determined by the animation of his hands. Whatever side of the screen he raises his hand on, that is the corner you run to, and if he raises both hands, that means you go to the center. The center is generally considered the lucky outcome because you can actually DPS him the entire time, and the animation is quite long, so it's pretty much just free DPS. And that's all the attacks. Remember, decent Holy Fountain is your best friend. Don't be afraid to use Blink. Blink can keep you safe from a lot of the meteors that are rolling towards you, or the cascade meteors that are also flying towards you. But be aware that the entire time you're hovering up in the air, you might be bombarded with black chain. Just like a fight like Darknell, this fight is all about knowing exactly what you need to be prepared for, because the situations will not be the same. There is no right answer. You need to adapt to a bunch of different attacks that are all combining and coming at you at once. Moving on to phase 3. In phase 3, Blackmage regains the ability to move. He also gains a Magnus-like barrier that reduces your damage if you decide to attack him from outside the barrier, and just like Magnus, it does get smaller as his health gets lower. Onto the attacks. Both meteors from phase 2 will be returning for phase 3 and function the exact same way. In addition to 2 new kinds of meteors, the red meteors will occasionally ascend from the floor up to the sky, and if you get hit by one, it will reverse your controls. The blue meteors zigzag down from the sky. Both of these meteors can pretty much be avoided by just hanging out on the right side of the map, which is pretty much where you will be living for this phase. That will also pretty much guarantee dodge another one of the mechanics of this fight, which is the Angels of Destruction. Blackmage will summon Angels of Destruction that are on guaranteed spots of the map, and they basically fire projectiles down and inward to the center of the screen. They do a small amount of damage and inflict Black Curse, but for the most part, these will just be dodged by standing in the appropriate spot of the map. As for the next black debuff attack, the lasers, they do not care where you are. They will be threatening anywhere. Whether you're up in the sky or down in the far right corner, it does not matter. These will appear in random formations all over the map very frequently and have a blue version and a pink version. Blue lasers do less damage and have a much more lax and spread out pattern. Pink lasers do more damage and have a much denser pattern that is harder to avoid. These lasers can actually be exceptionally dangerous in comparison to the black chain mechanics of phase 2 that gave you the black debuff, because the most prominent attack Blackmage does himself is actually one that applies the white debuff. At this point, I should have already said that you should just be trying to dodge everything in phase 3. You never want to get any debuff. That one attack happens to be Blackmage's push attack. This sees Blackmage do his best impression of a little starfish or a jumping jack or whatever you want to call it. The point is, this attack hits you, pushes you away, and inflicts you with the white debuff. These are all very dangerous things, especially when you consider the combination that getting knocked back into lasers that are potentially covering a large area of the map can instantly cause you to lose 1 life, and if meteors are coming as well, you can sometimes lose 3 to 4 lives in the blink of an eye. So how do you counterplay this melee attack when you are supposed to stay within the barrier? The simplest universal answer is just duck. This attack does not have a hitbox on the floor, meaning when you crouch or duck, you dodge it completely. This means that for the majority of the fight, you are going to be attack, duck, attack, duck, some kind of pattern like that depending on your attack speed. Hurricane classes obviously have an advantage as they can stop at a moment's notice and duck safely. Before I talk more about how you practically fight Blackmage and how you deal with the push attack, let's cover the rest of his attacks so everything makes sense. The next attack that Blackmage has himself is the pull attack. This is very similar to the push attack. It forces your movement. In this case, it just sucks you in and can put you in some dangerous scenarios. It doesn't do any damage. The counterplay is simply don't be near him when it casts it, but really don't worry about that, and oftentimes he just wants to pull you in to kick you right in the face again. Last thing you need to worry about is Blackmage's 2 full map attacks. First, let's cover the colorful version, or known as Up. This is the much safer and easier version to dodge. Simply just hold blink in the sky or stand on one of the platforms and you will be safe from the constant death field that is covering the entire floor. Near the end of that attack, all the platforms will trigger a little AoE explosion that will do some damage. It's best just to jump off them before that happens. You will have plenty of time to be warned about it. The white full map attack, or known as the down version, is much more dangerous. A bunch of white orbs will rain from the sky, all dealing 1000% HP damage, and will explode on contact with the floor. The best way and only way to dodge this reliably is to stand under the platform like an umbrella and let them shield you from the destruction. However, if you are standing under a small platform, it is entirely possible that the AoE explosion from the orbs hitting the floor will hit you even if the meteor did not hit you itself. So when deciding on what platform to pick one that is away from Blackmage so he cannot kick you out from under it, and make sure it is big enough to guarantee your safety. Generally, it is best to burst the moment a full map attack ends, as both of these are quite dangerous and often want you to be away from Blackmage. You generally don't want your burst being interrupted by a full map attack. And just a reminder that Blackmage is immune to traditional binds, so Origin is the only bind you have in this mode. Now that you know the attacks, let's talk about how phase 3 actually plays out. You are always going to be staying in the barrier, so you do full damage. That is also going to make you very susceptible to Blackmage's attacks, most notably the push. As I mentioned previously, you are going to be very frequently attack, duck, that kind of playstyle, constantly dodging the push attack via that method. However, as there are so many other attacks going on at the same time, ducking is not always going to be a perfect method. That makes you a sitting duck for lasers and any meteors that may be coming towards you. And in regards to lasers specifically, crouching can also be a reliable way to dodge these if they otherwise intersect with your character. However, it is very, very important that you keep in mind that when you crouch, you are actually shifting your character's hitbox forward. This may cause you to get hit by a laser that you were previously safe from while standing upwards. This can be pretty dangerous, especially if you already had a white debuff on you. However, if this does happen and you do get inflicted with black debuff and you haven't lost a life yet, it can often just be safest to just crouch down until the black debuff passes. Very often the case for phase 3 is you will lose your life from either getting hit by the kick first and then a laser, or getting hit by the laser and then getting greedy and getting kicked in the face. You can try to do do something like blink up in the air to dodge the lasers and some meteors coming at you, but sometimes you might end up in a situation where Blackmage actually kicks you on the way down and then immediately you get hit by a laser. There are so many times where you're going to feel like you couldn't do anything. And while that may not always be true thanks to things like Hero's Will and whatever mechanics your class may have, there are situations where things are going to go wrong. And sometimes you might lose a lot of lives very quickly, but do not get discouraged, because if you can make it through phase 3, phase 4 is considered to be significantly easier than all the others, but it does still have its challenges. So let's get right into phase 4. During phase 4, the fundamental mechanics of Blackmage are going to change a little. Instead of attacks inflicting you with debuffs and that being the exclusive way you get one of the black or white debuffs, you actually use the NPC interact key to select which one you are going to be permanently afflicted with. And while you hold either the black or white debuff, you will actually be immune to all of those attacks, while you are vulnerable to getting hit by the other one. The bread and butter of phase 4 in terms of attacks is going to be a constant barrage of little black and white bullets coming from wherever Blackmage is. He moves rather slowly in this phase, but he will try to keep up with the player, and it is best to always be on the side of the map that has the most room. So if he's in the far right corner, you want to be to the left of him, and vice versa. The goal here is to be hit by as few attacks as possible, because the patterns he fires in will be quite erratic. Sometimes he's just doing a spiral of bullets in all directions around him, just firing outward with pretty big gaps to dodge. Other times he's Gatling gunning one single color at you that can very easily kill you if you just stand still and take it. Now, while these bullets are being fired in all directions, there will also be black or white explosions happening throughout the map at random. This is unfortunately a little bit of RNG, and for the most part you're just going to have to accept that you're going to be blasted in the face by these periodically. Aside from that, there is once again a full map attack that you need to be aware of. This one is technically a lot easier to dodge than the rest, but it can also be very easy to accidentally mistake. Essentially, pillars of light will spawn from both the floor and the sky, covering the entire map, and you need to be hit by the one that matches your color. Otherwise, just like the rest, you will be dealt 1000% HP damage. And just like the other full map attacks, Blackmage does get a shield after a successful full map attack, so just more health to get through. That is pretty much all you need to worry about from phase 4. Like I said, mechanically very simple, but it can also be very overwhelming. While the goal of always standing on the side of Blackmage that has more room to dodge sounds very simple, you also need to consider that the only way you have to heal reliably in this phase for the average class is Decent Holy Fountain, which unfortunately has about a minute cooldown and needs to be placed on the ground. Generally, you want to camp on top of this thing. You can tank a lot of bullets of the opposite color just by pressing up on this thing occasionally and just standing still and teeing off on Blackmage's face. But as Blackmage gets closer, it becomes less of a viable option to just stand still and just try to DPS him. Occasionally, you're going to be forced off of your Holy Fountain. Sometimes that may be a lot sooner than you would have liked, and you may be without cooldown for a while. And then you need to camp on the other side where you don't have that safety net until you can either get back to the other side safely or until Holy Fountain just disappears and you can cast it again. The concept is incredibly simple. The machine gun patterns are going to be either the most dangerous or the biggest blessing for this part of the fight. When Blackmage is machine gunning the same color you have at you, it's free pizza and you just get to DPS as much as you want. But in a moment's notice, he can switch it up to the opposite color, and then all of a sudden you're getting blasted in the face like a shotgun and you drop dead. When it comes to the opposite color Gatling gun, which is easily the most dangerous bullet pattern, there are so many ways to dodge it. If you have a lot of room to move, you can just keep moving slowly away from him and you will dodge it that way. You can also just blink up in the air for a while and allow him to fire a lot up there, then drop to the ground safely. There are numerous ways to dodge all the different kinds of patterns, and it's really up to you and your class to find out what works best for you. As for which debuff you stay in, that is kind of personal preference. Once upon a time before Decent Holy Fountain, it was probably incredibly dangerous to ever even try to stay in White Curse, meaning you would get inflicted with Black Curse all the time by getting hit by black attacks. Whereas now when we have Decent Holy Fountain, now you actually have a way to heal even if you're constantly being afflicted with Black debuff. It is up to you to decide which one you want to try to do. I typically stay in Black Curse, so I get White debuff. That way I can actually use potion heals. In terms of general tips, like, Decent Holy Fountain, it is going to be one of your best friends in this. Same with Blink. Like the general stuff they give you from VMATRIX, it's like it was all meant for Blackmage. Blink is pretty much essential for this. Decent Holy Fountain, also borderline essential, and even the second version of Hero's Will. If you have not gotten used to using Hero's Will yet, this is the fight to practice. Start using it, because nearly every death you will ever have in this fight probably could have been prevented with Hero's Will at some point. And you have 2 of them, and if you're a cooldown reset class, you get even more. There's a lot of mechanics to know in this fight, and there's a lot of situations that you just can't prepare for. You need to be prepared that a lot of patterns are going to overlap, and it's going to create a lot of dangerous situations. And most importantly, patience. You cannot be patient enough with this fight. You have a long timer, but most importantly, Additionally, it's a lot of phases to get through, a lot of HP to get through, and if you die in phase 3 just as you origin, you suddenly need to wait 6 minutes to do your origin again to skip phase 1. That's if you still need to do that. The good news is all this patience and practice of ducking and attacking is going to do you a lot of good when you move into Sarah.